Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle. I'm familiar with many of you and hope you are familiar with me. I am one of the instructional designers here for the CODL. My colleague, oh,
Hi, I'm Marisha Marks, and today we're going to be talking about practical and accessible emails. So, Kyle is going to be covering the practical side. I'm going to be covering a combination of practical and accessible. So, we'll switch back and forth a little bit. The session is being recorded. We love seeing your smiling faces, but if you prefer to keep your smiling face off the recording, you can feel free to turn off your cameras.
so first thing that I do want to give you a heads up is we are doing something a little unique where we're switching. We're in two different locations, switching back and forth. So if there's a little bit of lag, don't worry about it. But we also, just as a reminder to Marisha and I, we will pause for a moment between screen sharing changes because we know that takes a second for yours to refresh. So don't worry if we do a pause. That's just intentional, so we know that you can be on the same page. We will be viewing in the chat, so you can feel free to write any messages in there. And again, if you don't want to be seen, you can take your video camera off, or you can just use the chat. And if you can hold questions in between till the sessions, that would be awesome. All right, so we are doing practical accessible. I'm going to cover the practical side and I'm going to do a really quick view in a second. I'm going to screen share Google for you so that you get a sense of what we're going to be doing. So we are talking about the email draft function in Google. This is a feature that lets you use Google Docs to create and generate emails and then transfer them over to your Gmail account to be able to send them out and use the functions of Gmail. It is a really great tool that lets you organize emails for your course and courses and staff and student notifications, and you can have multiples of these on one document. So the CODL, we've been using these for a while, and what we are able to do is have a project that we're working on, and all the emails that we send out to everybody are on that one document, intermixed with instructions and to-do lists and all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of a one-stop shop thing. So we wanted to share with you today how to go about doing this, to check out this feature. But I'm going to start really basic, really quickly, just in case you're here and you're not really sure, you're not a Google user, how exactly to create a Google Doc. I'm going to go over this really quickly, and then we'll dive right into the send email function. So I'm going to share my screen in 1 second. Okay. All right, so I believe everyone should be able to see my window is actually set to share Google. All right, when you are logged in as yourself in your account or any subsidiary account, if you work for a department, you will have your icon on the upper right-hand side, and we are just going to start with creating a Google Doc. To create a Google Doc, what you want to go is up by where your icon is or your letter initial is in the upper right-hand corner. You're going to see 9 dots. Where the 9 dots are, that's called the Google Apps Launcher. When you click on that, it'll show you all of the Google tools we have at Stick. To go right to a Google Doc, what you want to do is just scroll with your mouse through the menu, and you're going to look for the icon that has a blue piece of paper with some lines and the word docs. So you want to hear DOCS, docs. Go ahead and click on the docs menu. What's going to happen is that the Google Docs main menu will appear, and you will have a banner up at the top, which we call the template gallery. The template gallery is going to start with a first area that says start a new document. And then there's going to be a rainbow colored plus symbol. You will click on the plus symbol and it will create you a blank document. If you have something that you already are created and you want to insert this feature into an already previous document, or you're going to have, we want to start from a template that's already created for you, you can do that as well. But today we're going to start with a blank document to do this. So that's going to go ahead and be, you're going to start here and you're going to have a document. Now, Marisha and I are sharing our document. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the sheet that I had that we're sharing together. Okay, so to create an email draft, so I'm going to give you the straight step-by-step instructions, then Marisha is going to go more into formatting. So this is how you create an email draft. You are going to go up towards the title of the Google Doc, which is on the left-hand side of the screen. It's going to have the blue icon and the title, and you're going to come to the features menu. That features menu includes file, edit, view, insert, etc., etc. What you want to do is you want to go to the insert menu, click on the insert menu, select that. And then what you want to do is scroll about halfway down, and you want to look for something that says building blocks. Once you put your mouse or you select building blocks, automatically another a window will appear, and you will go and see the phrase email draft. And you will go ahead and click on email draft. When you do that on your screen, you will see a table appear. And so the table here will have a to, a CC, a BC, and a subject, just like any traditional Google Doc, any Google email would have. You want to also be attentive to that there is a little button on the upper right-hand side that's a little M, and that will appear. So you're going to have this table that has to, CC, BC, subject. Then you're going to have right below that where we're going to say that this is, if I click on it, it says write email message. That automatically shows up when I click on that box. And then you're going to have an actual line below that, which is still a row. So this is still a table, and this body text is going to have a line at the bottom. You don't want to eliminate this section. You want to keep this entire area in your email, because this is actually where you're going to put your language for your email. So I'm going to give you a couple quick things of advice, and just to clarify, and some tips and tricks here. So when you're creating an email, whether it's here or in Google Docs, you can actually use your cursor and select after the to, where it says type at people. Now, if you know the person, you can start typing their, you can click the at symbol, which is shift to, and anybody that you frequently email is going to show up there, and you're going to get a menu. But if I start typing people, I'm going to see names in here. So for example, if I have Daniel, I have 4 different Daniels for sticks. So I can select any of my users, and I can pick individuals as I go. So if I want to, for example, choose Danny or Daniel, and then I want to choose Danny, I can go ahead and select that, and it will keep adding everybody into the email right then and there. Just as a kind of quick advice, just to remember that you, when you're sending anything for to, that's going to be your primary audience. CC is your secondary audience. Anybody who needs to be informed, but doesn't necessarily need a reply. If you don't have to actually, they're not the main participants of it. BCC is blind carbon copy. That's going to let people see that if it's for informational, but it also doesn't retain any of your recipients, so it is anonymous. The other recipients will not see who was BCC on the subject line. Then you're going to go ahead and have a subject, and you can just type in anything. So for example, if I wanted to practical, accessible workshop today. Okay, I'm going to put that in there. Now, a couple little quick pieces of advice for, and this is just also part of the practical accessible piece, is that we want you to think about creating not only accessible, but effective and inclusive materials. So one of the things that people often frequently say to us is that, how do I create a effective subject line? So one of the things is always to be aware of your audience and your subject line. If you tend to work with students, just being very conscientious. If for some reason you're doing an all-campus one, or you're doing something, just be conscientious of your audience, especially if you're including staff and faculty, is just to make sure that it's staff and faculty, or all, or addressing it like that. Be conscientious of your audience that you're directing the emails to. It also might be attention students. That might also be something if you're also including the faculty members in it. Additionally, we encourage you to consider gender inclusive now. So for example, if you're doing something where you're inviting people to a gathering, try considering things like everyone, distinguished guests, people, friends, folks, y'all. So depending on the tone and the intent, you might be more welcoming if the subject line or the body text is more gender inclusive, and also you want to be appropriate professionally. Additionally, you want to be careful and thoughtful of using emojis in your subject lines. So these are playful and they get attention. And though anti-spam filters usually do catch these, and they should be safe. And here at Stick, most of our emails are internal, so it's not really an issue. If you are sending things to exterior audiences or large populations, you want to just be careful, because adding emojis to subject lines sometimes is viewed as spam by either spam filters, or that's kind of somewhat known in the on the internet. So just to be careful of that. But you always want to use emojis over emoticons. So emojis are the little graphic icons, and emoticons are the where you would do the colon and a parentheses to make a smiley face. You don't want to use things like that are text-based images. You want to go ahead and use the emojis. And the reason why is that emojis have alt text on them. Alt text is something that for individuals who are using assistive technologies or screen readers, it will read that to them. So just to give you that heads up, is just to be aware, you can make it more friendly, but also just be aware that there's other considerations too. It is also suggested that shorter is better for subject lines. And I even say that, a lot of times we want to be hip or overly excitable, but even though I personally love 3 exclamation points, it is recommended that you limit punctuation, including dashes, question marks, exclamation points, to no more than 3 in a subject. And so with that said, is that you've put your to, your BCC, your subject, been careful to take into consideration what the subject is, and also just make it inclusive and effective. And then you are going to be ready to write your email and format your draft. I'm going to pass it on to Marisha.
Okay, so I'm going to take over screen sharing and share my screen. There we go. Okay, and so we're going to be talking about writing. Oh, so before we jump in, we're going to do a quick poll to see how we're doing with what Kyle just showed. So I'm going to launch the poll, and the poll just has 2 questions. The first question is, do you use the email draft feature? To use the email draft feature, where do you need to start? So that should have come up for you. Go ahead and select whether you should start in your Gmail account, a Google Doc, or a Word doc. And then the second question is, I feel confident creating an email draft. So how are you feeling based on what Kyle just showed? You're ready to go? Maybe need to play around with it a little bit. And then if you have any questions, feel free to select I have a question. You're also welcome to put questions into the chat. Or you're also definitely welcome to come on the mic and ask Kyle any questions. Okay, so I'm seeing the results of the poll, and most of you are saying that a Google Doc is where you would start, and that is the process that Kyle just showed. So to use this feature of the email draft, you do need to start in a Google Doc. You will then continue to your Gmail account, but you don't start in your Gmail account. You start in a Google Doc. For those of you who are selecting that you're not yet comfortable with this process, we are going to stay on the Zoom actually after this meeting from 3 to 4, so we can do some more one-on-one support. And then you're also welcome to schedule more time with Kyle and I at a later time if you're not able to stay today. Okay, well, thank you for telling us about that. And now I'm going to continue to some of the considerations for the body of your email. So the first thing with the body, so that is this center part, the bigger box where when you click on it, it says write email message. And When I click on it, I see that it defaults to certain text size and certain font. It right away defaults to the Arial font and to 10-point font size. Now, when you're writing your emails, to make them the easiest to read for somebody visually looking at your text on the screen, you want to use a sans serif font. So those are fonts that don't have any of the little lines and embellishments on the letters. Arial is one of those fonts. It's a great choice. You can also use Helvetica, Calibri, Verdana, other good choices. 10-point font, so is a little small. When we write documents, we usually use 11 or 12-point font, but for some reason with emails, we tend to go small. But a lot of people are using very small devices to read emails, and making your font a little bit bigger will make it a little bit easier. So right up at the top in your menu bar, you can just click on the plus, and it will go first to 11 points and then to 12 points, and then you're ready to start typing. I have some text that I pre-wrote that is kind of like an example of a notification that I might send out about today's session. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that right in, and then we'll continue working with that text. So I just pasted some text that starts with practical and accessible, sending email workshop. So that's like the title of my workshop and who is it for? It's for SDCC faculty and staff. What will we do? And then there's a description of today's workshop. When is it? And how do I join? And all of the Zoom information is there. So when I read this text, there's some parts of this text that are kind of like a heading, or they're organizational, they're creating structure, giving structure to my document. And there are other parts of this text that are more informational, like the paragraph of text that describes the workshop. So headings are parts of my document formatting that help to navigate the document. They help to give it structure, and they help to give it visual structure, and they also really help screen reader users, so somebody who may be using assistive technology to interact with this email, because with a screen reader, you can actually jump from one heading to the next, similar to the way that a sighted user may skim a document, look for bolded text, or look for text that's bigger in size. The same is true for a screen reader if the text has been tagged with headings. So let's start with giving some of the text that I added here some headings. So practical and accessible, sending email workshop. This is going to be my heading 1. So this is like the title. This is where I'm talking about what this communication is going to be about. My headings are in my menu bar. The default is always normal text. I'm going to click on that drop down, and I'm going to select heading 1. We visually see that the text became bigger. It became a slightly darker black color. And when I click into the text, now at the top, I see that in the styles menu, it says heading 1 instead of saying normal text. And now I'm going to keep going through my document. So who is it for? So who is it for? That's the next level of heading. It's going to be nested under my title for my email. So instead of a heading 1, I'm going to make that a heading 2. I'm going to do the same thing for what will we do? I'm going to make that a heading 2. When is it? I'm going to make that a heading 2. And how do I join? I'm going to make that a heading 2 as well. So now we visually see that I have a heading 1 that is a bigger black text, and then several heading 2s that are a maroon text, because that is how my headings were set. That was how the defaults were set for me. And I also see in the styles that those are labeled as heading 2. So if you think about your headings, think about writing an outline for the information that you're going to share. And the great thing is that Google can take your headings and convert them to an outline so that you can make sure that the headings that you've added are presented the way that you want them to. Over on the left-hand side of your screen, there's a button that has 3 dots and 3 lines. When you hover over it, it says Show Document Outline. When I click that, it pulls out just the text that was tagged as a heading. I see that practical and accessible is the highest level heading, and the other 4 headings are nested underneath that. It's always great to double check that the headings that you've added were added in the way that you wanted to, that you didn't grab extra text by accident or miss any text. Now, you may say, you know what? I don't like this maroon color. I would prefer for my headings to just all be black, or maybe I want them to be a dark green instead of a dark maroon. I can take my "Who is this for" text, and I can go ahead and change the text color. So I'm going to change it from a dark maroon to a dark green. So I changed it for one heading 2, but the other heading 2s are still maroon. I can highlight that text. I can go back down up to my styles menu, go to where it says heading 2, and I can select update heading 2 to match. When I click update heading 2 to match, everything that is tagged as a heading 2 will now have the same formatting that I selected for this particular text. So when I select that, everything else that was tagged as a heading 2 has changed to the green color. So you can make your headings visually appear the way that works for your communication. Now, the next thing that I see is that I have space between various sections of my document. Space is fantastic. Space makes it easier to view the document. It makes it easier to focus on the important parts of the document, makes it much easier to read the document. But you want to create that space in a way that it's going to be useful for everyone and distraction-free for everyone. When you create space using your Enter key on the screen reader user side of things, it's actually going to create noise, because every time there's a blank line, it's going to read it as a blank. So right now, between practical and accessible and who's it for, I have an extra line that I created using the Enter key. So I'm going to delete that line. I don't want that space creating noise for any of my readers. So I'm going to delete all of those. But I do want some visual space in my document. So again, I'm going to highlight who is it for, and I'm going to use the line spacing option. The line spacing option is again in my toolbar, line and paragraph spacing. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to select add space before paragraph. It automatically shifts my text down. I visually have a little bit more space, but there's no line. I can't click in there. Now, I may say, okay, that's a good amount of space, or maybe it's not quite enough space. I want a little bit more space. I can go to custom spacing, and now I can choose exactly how much space I want. Maybe instead of 10 points, I actually want 12. So now it's shifted down. Now I can go back to heading 2, and I can update heading 2 to match, and everything that is a heading 2 is going to have that line spacing applied. So now all of my headings have shifted down, creating that white space. Now, I changed the color from maroon to green. To change color, again, you highlight your text and you click on the text color button. That is the A in my toolbar. When I click on that, it gives me my full palette of colors. I want to make sure that the colors that I choose are going to have sufficient contrast for anybody who's viewing this document, who maybe has low vision, who may be viewing the document on a phone in the bright sunshine, or maybe it's dark in the room where they are. You want to have a good amount of contrast between the foreground and the background of your document. So what I can do is I can check whether my contrast is sufficient or not. When I select a color, I can then click on custom. When I click on custom, it gives me the hex code for this specific color. So the green that I selected has a hex code I'm going to go ahead and copy that hex code. And now I'm going to go to a site that allows for me to check the color contrast. So this is a WebAIM website. And so I can paste the hex code that I had. So there we go. It selects my green. So my foreground is that green. My background is white. So I'm just going to leave that as white. And then it's going to tell me, did that green pass the test or not? So for normal text, for WCAG AA, that is the standard that everyone should aspire to, it passes. WCAG AAA, which is a more stringent test, it did not pass. So this tells me that a darker color might actually be better with the white background. Maybe the green is not quite dark enough. So I can take the slider and I can make it a little, I can slide it down until that color passes WCAG AAA. I can then select the hex code, copy it, and now I'm going to go back to my document, and I'm going to take the hex code that I copied, paste it in, and update. So I've updated who is it for. Again, I'm going to go to heading and apply heading to match so that all of my headings now have text color that has sufficient contrast. And Kyle has pasted the link to the contrast checker in the chat so that you have access to it. And we also have a full website built out with all of the resources and information that we're presenting today that we're going to share with you as well. Okay, so images are next. Kyle talked about images a little bit in talking about emojis in your subject. She mentioned alt text when she was talking about those emojis. I'm going to talk about adding an image to your email body itself. Images are a great way to enhance your communication, to bring focus to certain parts of your document. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that the image that you're using is already has a certain level of accessibility. So again, you can use the same contrast checker. So if you're creating some kind of infographic, same contrast checker to make sure that the colors in your infographic have sufficient contrast. And try to keep the amount of text in your images to a minimum, because anything that you put in as text, you're then going to have to add to the alternative text. So if you have a banner or a logo, a small amount of text there is fine, but you don't want to be using your image as the primary way that you're conveying information. So in my document here, I'm going to add a stick logo. I'm going to put it right under the practical and accessible heading. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over the insert image button, and I'm going to click on that. I can take images from a variety of different sources. I can upload from the computer. I can search the web. If I have images on my Google Drive, I can grab those. If I have images in my Google Photos, I can grab those. I can even use my webcam to take an image by selecting camera. So I'm going to select upload from computer. I'm going to select the stick logo that I have saved and click open. So now I have a stick logo in my email. It's a little bit big. I'm going to make that smaller. So I can just grab the corner and make that a little bit smaller. So now I have an image in my document. I want to make sure that that image is available to everyone who may be interacting with my document. So anybody who's using a screen reader will need that alternative text. That alternative text will be read out to them when they encounter an image. Or if somebody's on a really slow internet connection, sometimes the alternative text will present instead of the image if the image is really slow to load. So to add the alternative text, I'm going to click on my image. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to select the alt text menu option. that is going to open up the image options panel, and I have the option to write a description. For something like this, I'm just going to put STCC logo. That's all I need. That is the only thing that is relevant about this image. So your alternative text is going to be specific to the context, specific to the readers of your communication. So if you're comparing a maroon logo to a golden logo, then presenting that color may be important within the image description. Or if you're communicating with a marketing team, or if you're communicating with students, or you're communicating with faculty. So depending on what you want your users to know, that's what you're going to put in your alternative text. If you have any kind of charts, if you have any kind of graphs, again, you want to include the information that you want the people reading your email to know about your image. Okay, so now I'm going to close that image options. And I'm going to continue to links. So in my email draft here, I have a how do I join option, and it says join Zoom meeting, and then it has a URL or the link for my Zoom meeting. And it says https://stcc-edu, etc. So it's a fairly long URL, and it uses up a fair amount of space in my document, in my email. And it's also going to read out that entire link to anybody using a screen reader. So instead, what I may want to do is I'm going to copy that link. So I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to copy that link address. And where it says join Zoom meeting, I might make that a little bit more descriptive. I want my link description to say where is that going to end up. So I might say join practical accessible Zoom meeting. So it's a little bit of an art where you want to make it short enough, but also descriptive enough. So I've copied my link. I have some text that describes the destination. I'm going to highlight the text. And now I'm going to click on the insert link button, and I'm going to paste that Zoom link information and click apply. Now I can delete the link itself. And so now my email says, how do I join? And it says join practical accessible Zoom meeting. So somebody reading the email would click on that link, and that would launch the Zoom meeting for them. Sometimes you do want to provide the full Zoom link if you think that they need to copy and paste that information into their own calendars, something like that. So you may include both the descriptive link and keep the full URL below that. But oftentimes when you have links, just a descriptive link is going to be all that you need, and it's going to create much cleaner text, much easier text that is much easier to read for all of your users. Let's say you wanted to give somebody reading your email a link to the STCC website. You could just link the words STCC that are in your email and have that link to the STCC homepage, something like that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and launch the next.
Oh, Marisha, could you
Yeah, go ahead.
could you do a quick explanation for click here?
Yes, thank you, Kyle. So when you create descriptive links, sometimes it feels like it's a call to action. You want your reader to click on the link. And so there are many websites and communications that link the words click here. So instead, so where it says, how do I join? It might say, click here. Or it might just say here, or it might say, read more, something like that. The problem with those links is that they don't tell the user what clicking here is going to accomplish. Because somebody using a screen reader can actually look for all the links in the document outside of the information that's before or after the link. So they won't know that it's how do I join, click here. They will just hear link, click here. That doesn't give them sufficient information to be able to decide whether that is something that they need to click on now, next week, or maybe they don't need it at all. Whereas join practical accessible Zoom meeting tells them right away where they're going to end up and what that link does. Thanks for that reminder, Kyle. I'm going to get rid of click here because that is not something we want to do. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to give you the next poll question. Where are my polls? Where did my polls go? There they are. Okay. Okay, so in this poll, we're asking about the body of the email. First question is about headings. Headings are only needed if someone in your audience uses a screen reader, true or false. Second question is, when writing alt text, which of the following is true? And then again, a question about how you feel about the information that I presented. Are you ready to keep going? Do you still need some more help? How are you doing? So go ahead and take a minute. Let us know, how's this going for you? So I know that there is 15 of us in the room. So I see 6 have responded, 7, 8. All right, can we get to 10? 9. Can we get one more? 10. All right. Okay, so headers are only needed if someone in your audience uses a screen reader. False. We got an 11 out of 11 on that one. Thank you. I feel like I did something right. When writing alt text, which of the following is true? My alt text should be a short phrase. Yes, definitely. So you don't want to write paragraphs and paragraphs in your alt text. If you have more information that you need to present about the image than can be presented in a short phrase or a short sentence, then you can add it to the email text itself. I should start my alt text with image of. So this is actually something that I forgot to mention as I was talking about images. So a screen reader will already read out that it is an image. So you really don't need to say image of unless the type of image is important. So if it's important to know that it's a screenshot, or it's important to know that something is a painting as opposed to a photograph, then you can include that information in the alt text. But saying image of stick logo is not necessary, just stick logo is all you need. My alt text should convey the meaning of the image. Yes, definitely. My alt text will be the same regardless of where I use the image, not necessarily, because it's going to be context specific. So if you're presenting the image in a test question, then the alt text is going to be different than in trying to teach about that image. The alt text is going to be specific to the situation where you're using the image and who is going to be interacting with your image. And again, a reminder that for anybody who wants a little bit more help with what we're presenting today, we're going to be here from 3 to 4, and you can always schedule a time one-on-one. Kyle, it's all yours.
Thanks, Marisha. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take over the share again. Okay, so really quick recap. You're going to start creating a Google Doc. Then you're going to have the open Google Doc. You're going to create insert, building blocks, email draft, and then an email table will show up. And then you would put in your sender, your to, your CC, your BC, your subject, and then your text information. So once you've done all of that work, you know who your audience is, you're going to go ahead and have your text that you're ready to send out. You put your links in, you've addressed the accessibility components that make this a more effective and accessible email. What we want to do is now guide you through the preview step of what this looks like right before you send this email out in Gmail. So a couple quick things. We're going to send you a link to a page with all of these instructions on there. So we will be following through on that. And probably the first thing I just want to say is that when you are making this draft email, when you're getting ready to send, you do want to make sure you are in the account that you want the email to be sent from. If you have a shared account across multiple employees, staff members, faculty, or department, or if you want to make sure it's sent not, you can't actually send stick things through your personal email, but if you wanted to make sure that the logo matches the upper right hand corner, so you're signed into the right account. The moment that you start to initiate this, it's automatically going to go to that email account. So with that said, what happens is that you're going to see on the screen that table that we talked about, and you're going to see to the left of that email draft table, you're going to notice an M, and this is called the Preview in Gmail button. So you want to select that button, and what it's going to do is give me a second. I'm going to hit this button. It's going to automatically transfer the text of the email from the top of the table to that bottom line. It's going to open in my Gmail account. So I'm going to go ahead and select the M. It's going to actually pop open. I'm going to, for 1 second, change my screen sharing for you. And let me change that. Share.
We can see the email. It's all good.
It is showing. Okay.
Yep.
I was going to do this just to make it bigger, make it intentional. Okay. So then this box will appear. And so it's your traditional box that you would get when you go to create an email. And if you're familiar with this, this is the pop-out feature that actually will pop out your email into a new window if you didn't want to write on the screen. So this lets you make that the email draft window much bigger. So you're going to hit the M. It's going to transfer it from the Google Doc to your Gmail account. So you do have the ability at this time to change anything that you would like. If you want to add people, if you want to delete people, you can do that as well. You can change your subject, you can change your text. Now, we do have the ability in this to edit right here. However, we're going to say that we highly recommend that we would prefer, or we would make the suggestion from a practical standpoint that you would rather go back and just close this window, delete this draft at the bottom if there are any significant changes. If you need to rework a paragraph, you need to change formatting, we would encourage you just to cancel this draft and go back to the document and correct it there. And that is mostly because there is more formatting options that are available on your Google Doc than there is in Gmail. Marisha is going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. So I have this draft here. If I'm all set and I'm ready to send it, I can go ahead and read through my email. I can add people. Additionally, if you are comfortable with, just want to make sure if I have, if you are comfortable with like doing contacts and having contacts groups, this is where you could add a contact group such as campus community. So it should, is it going to open it up for me? For some reason, it's not going to do it right now. Oh, there we go. So I'm just going to start typing and it's going to show campus community. We have found that it more likely when you're doing group lists, it's going to show up here in this email draft, and it does not necessarily show up unless you type the whole @campus community in your Google Docs. So here, if this was an email that went out to campus community, if you had a list of certain staff that you wanted it to go to, you could put it in here. Additionally, the other really quick thing to be aware about is that because you created this in Google Doc, it did not add the signature of the account that you wanted to. If you want to add your signature that you already have available on your email, what you can do is go down to the main bar that starts with the send button and goes all the way to the 3 dots. 2 spaces back, which looks like a pen, is actually the insert signature box, and you can click on this and then just add your signature at the bottom of the email. So in this case, I did not have the signature in here, and then I went ahead and inserted. And that is because you created it from a Google Doc, and you're just you're transferring the Google Doc information into your email account. It's not going to know which signature you may or may not want to use. Additionally, if you are not familiar with how to create a Gmail signature, you can go ahead and I'm going to put in the text box, in the chat box. This is actually a link for Google's on how to create a signature if you have any questions. Then, so you've got your people, you've got your text, you've got your signature. Then you're going to have 2 send options. Your first send option, if you click on send, it's going to immediately go out. If you are not sure or you want to hold off, there is this really awesome feature called schedule send. And it is the little tiny triangle that is right to the right of, it is directly to the right of the send word on the blue button. And when I click on this, it's going to give me a little button that says schedule send. When I click on this, it won't let me send it to no one. That isn't supposed to. When I click on scheduled send, Marisha, does it show this? Okay. When it clicks on schedule send, it's going to ask, do you want it tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m., Monday morning at 8 a.m., or you can just pick a different date or time based on when you want to do this. You can set up a series of these emails for the entire semester if you want to, or if you just know that you want to send them out on Monday mornings, you want to send them out on particular days, but you want to set up a bunch of these, you can do that. So you're going to have the option to do schedule, or to directly send this if it's all set, to hit send. And if you want to schedule it, you can schedule it. And once you schedule it, it will give you a notification that it's been scheduled, and it will appear in your Gmail as a scheduled message. Is it okay if I go ahead and just hit send on this, Marisha, or would you like?
You can send that, that's fine.
Okay. So I was gonna say, I'll just do schedule send so it's in the drafts. If you want to pull it open. Okay, so I'm going to do schedule send, and I'm going to go ahead and say tomorrow morning. Once I do that, that window is going to say loading, and then what will happen is that will say send scheduled for tomorrow at 8 a.m. I can undo it, and then it's going to go ahead and load it in there. Then what I can do, hopefully it goes there. Let me show my screen again. What I can do is come to my inbox, and I will see that the schedule button has my email waiting to go out. And when I click on it, it will give me a bar at the top that says send scheduled for tomorrow, 8 a.m. And then I can choose to cancel the send, or and that will pull that message out.
And we do have recipients on there, so you probably don't want to send it.
No, I'm not going to send it. So I was just going to let you do the next step. So those are going to be the steps. We've gone through and created it. We've gone through and done our text, and then we've done the necessary steps to prepare it to be sent, whether immediately or later. And now I think we have another poll.
And we do. All right, here comes the next poll. Where did my poll go?
I'm also going to put a link to the schedule emails to send feature. I'm going to put that also in the chat here if you want to check that out as well. Is it going?
It's not. Oh, there it is. No. Can you try stopping your screen share? For some reason, it's not launching. Where did it go?
Do you want me to try?
Yeah, can you try launching it? It's not, I feel like it's like in a window that I can't access. Oh, there we go. So we have a transferring email draft to Gmail poll. The first question says, to transfer my email draft to Gmail, I should. So what do you need to do to transfer your email? And then how confident do you feel about this process? So I see that there is one question. You can go ahead and take yourself off the mic if you selected that you have a question. And what's your question?
Hello. So I have a question. I know you said when you kind of transfer it into the email that it will be based on the account you're signed into. If you share the document with someone else and they send it, will it come from their email or will it still come from the person who originated it?
It's going to be in the account of the person who clicks the button.
Perfect. Thank you.
So for example, we have a shared CODL account and we all are on documents. So we can all write on those documents, but we send them out by going to our CODL account and actually clicking on that document, the preview and email, preview and Gmail button there in order to send it from the CODL or digital learning.
And so Kyle is reminding that the best way to transfer that content is to click on that preview in Gmail button, the one that looks like a letter M in your Google Doc. So you can copy your text directly into your Gmail, but then that won't take the subject, that won't take the recipients. Whereas if you use the button, that will bring over all the information. And so that is the most efficient way to use that email drafts tool. And again, we're going to stay if you have more questions. And I'm going to end the poll for now and start sharing my screen and talk about the last thing.
On
Yeah,
the
Danny, go
question,
ahead.
that was the bottom option, right? That was the correct answer.
The second option, yeah.
Yeah, all right, I had it wrong. Okay.
That's all right.
But
That's why you're learning.
But the bottom option, I remember, Kyle, that's the click on the M.
Correct.
That would have been the bottom option.
Correct.
That's the one.
Okay, all right, I got it. Maybe.
All right, so the last thing that I want to talk to you about is replying to an email. So we've been talking about you starting an email. You start in your Google Doc, you make that Google Doc look perfect, everything is great. But now somebody wrote you an email and you want to reply back to them. So when you do that, you have two options. So here what we're seeing on my screen is a practice email that I received, and I want to reply back to that email. So I have two options. I can go back to a Google Doc. I can use all those awesome features that I have in my Google Doc. I can copy that text and I can paste it into my reply. So I can do all of the formatting that I want in my Google Doc and then bring it over into my reply. So for anything that is longer, that has multiple paragraphs where you need a lot of formatting, that is definitely going to be your preferred option because you're going to have access to more tools. For shorter replies, you still have a lot of features that are right here in the email reply. So the first thing you have access to is a sans serif font and a font that is a good size for an email. So Gmail will always default to sans serif. You can click on the drop down. There are other fonts, other sans serif fonts that you can choose from if you want a different font. So you can choose Verdana, you can choose Tahoma, but you do want a font without those embellishments. So don't go with Georgia or Garamond or the serif one or the fixed width, all of those that have the little feet on the letters. Avoid those. So stick with the default sans serif or go with one of the other sans serif options. For text size, it always defaults to normal, and that gives you a sufficient text size. You can just stay with that. If you want to go a little bit bigger, you can select a large size. So I'm going to type some text. Here is my reply. Please use the contrast checker to check your image. So I want to give somebody access to the contrast checker. I want to give them a link. So I'm going to say, please use the contrast checker. And now I'm going to grab the website for the contrast checker. I'm just copying the URL for that, for the web address. And what I can do is I can highlight the words contrast checker. So again, we're trying to create those descriptive links. And I can use the links button. So I have a links, insert link button down at the bottom of my email reply. I can click on that. And to what URL should this link go? I'm going to paste the link for the WebAIM contrast checker, click OK. So now I have a line of text with a descriptive link built right in. I also have all the same options for changing text color. So I have the drop down for text color over here. I don't have the custom option, which makes it much harder to find exactly what the hex code is and actually use the contrast checker. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. So if there's a color that you know works based on the color palette in Google Docs, you can keep using those colors, but checking your colors is going to be more challenging in the email as opposed to in a Google Doc. Other features that are really great and not available in email replies are headings. So if you have that longer text that you want to organize with headings and create that structure, there's no way of doing that in an email reply. And there's no way of adjusting the spacing of my text to push those paragraphs down and create a little bit more white space. So again, that is something that would need to be done in Google Docs rather than in an email reply. You can add images though. So I can click return, and then I'm going to click on the insert photo button. I have the option to upload. I'm going to choose a photo to upload. I'm going to select that same stick logo, click open. It uploads. It is really big. And when I click on that logo, I have the option to edit alt text. So I can have an image and I can have alt text with that image. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pass it back to Kyle for a little bit of wrap up. I know that we're right at 3 o'clock. If you have specific questions and have time to stick around, please do. We're going to share some resources if you have 1 or 2 minutes to hang on with us. And the last poll as well. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that last poll about replies to emails. And Kyle is going to give us some final links.
A way to let them focus on that.
Perfect, thank you. So the last poll asks, which of the following features are available for email replies in Gmail? So select all that are available for an email reply, and how comfortable are you feeling with this process? So I know some people had to head out, so we're a little bit of a smaller group. So just a reminder that headings are not available in a reply, and text spacing is also not available in a reply. So both for headings and text spacing, you do need to go back to a Google Doc. All right, Kyle, do you want to give the links for our page?
All right.
We'll send it out by email as well.
So all of the links that we've shared in the chat, we will share out in our email. Just wanted to make sure as you were going along, if you are a link clicker that you can add a new tab to your window. But what I want to do is give you that this is actually the instructions for what we just went over with you on the screen. So if you would like a text-based set of instructions, the email draft and stick Gmail link, that will take you to our page that includes all of what we have talked about today, including a little bit more of some advice and tips and tricks. And then additionally, back in the spring of 2022, Professional Development put on a Google Workspace training, and that was available through the Collective and Casey, the Collaborative for Education. And Casey was the person who did those workshops. And that is the link to the Google Workshop training for other features, tools, tips, tricks for using Google Workspace, which includes slides and different features. So that is the resources that we have for you today. I know that I thank you for sticking around and hanging out with us, asking your questions, completing the poll and paying attention.
Well, Kyle, will I be able to print out what you're sending to read?
We actually, if you can't print it out, Danny, we actually have it as a Google Doc, and we will be linking a Google Doc that you can click on and print out.
What do you mean by linking a Google Doc?
So if you go to the page, we'll send you the link, Danny.
Okay.
We're actually going to include a link that when you click on it, it'll open up and you can print it.
Okay.
But
I got another question for you. When I log on in the morning, I come to a page that says Google Docs. I don't know how to explain it. It looked like the page that when you first started today.
How are you?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
If I see it again, I'd recognize it. And I assume that's where you start.
Yes, if you are creating a Google Doc for this, then you would start actually at the Google Docs window.
Yeah, that comes up automatically for me
Okay.
when I log on, and then I X out, and then I go to Blackboard or wherever else I'm gonna go.
Okay. That actually could be a setting on your browser that lets that be one of the first pages that's opened up. It could have been set up when you got your computer. So we could actually just go through your browser tab settings on startup. And that might be if you don't want it anymore, or you want a different page to open up, we can work with you after this.
Oh, no, I was thinking of that, probably a good page for it to come up if I'm gonna try to
well,
learn
yes.
this. You know, and
That
I
is the
start
right
with
place
that.
to start.
Because at least it's got me where to start, because I recognize when you did it today,
Mhm.
I recognize, I said, oh, is that where that came from?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it'll come up with the portal. And then I can X out of that to go to Blackboard. I know a little bit.
No, you do. Right. So thank you, everybody, for joining
Well,
us.
thank you. Yeah.
Marisha, did you have last parting anything?
I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And then anyone who wants to stick around and ask more questions, we're here.
Thank you all.